Super slash Man, the Christopher Reeve story. This is a new documentary that is being put out by DC Studios and Fathom Events. It was only playing for 2 nights. I unfortunately was not able to make it for the the first night. I had to go the second night it was showing to the 7 o'clock show. I did not know going into this. I did know going into this, but I found this very late until I already got my ticket. Now, this film was not originally going to be put out by Warner Brothers and DC Studios. This was made by a different production company, and they had screened this film at film festivals, and it got glowing praise. James Gunn was able to see this film, really loved this, which makes sense because if you know James Gunn, he actually is a fan of Superman 78 and just the character of Superman. He actually does have a love for that character. And so this movie probably spoke to him in ways. And he pushed this movie out there to be released by Warner Brothers, which is good. Unfortunately, it only is getting a Fathom Events screening, which I think is for the best. I do not think this movie would have done well if it had a ton of showtimes. Not that it really mattered because Warner Brothers didn't really make it, they just acquired it. There's no real money down, right? For the most part. Whatever this movie made profit, in a way it was profit for them probably. You know, because I'm sure this is going to go on streaming, it'll get some clicks, and it'll probably get a Blu-ray release or something. If it doesn't, I'll be very sad if it doesn't. But this documentary, having the limited screening is probably for the best, especially since I don't know how much people respond to Christopher Reeve's Superman movies anymore. You know, I feel like when Richard Donner died a couple years ago, it didn't really feel like it was the tragedy that it should have been, right? Like, I was upset about it, and I know major film fans that were upset about it, but it didn't feel like enough of the film community was upset over losing one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. Like, this might be a hot take, I would put Richard Donner up before George Lucas in terms of greatest directors of all time that were able to change Hollywood and things like that. I think he's just not given that love, that credit, and respect. So, one of the reasons for that is the Superman movies that he directed. But basically, if you don't know, this documentary is about Christopher Reeve's life, and it was kind of like him playing the character of Superman, and then him getting kicked off the horse and what happened after that and all that stuff. And I think it's a very inspiring story to see the pieces of this movie lay out. It's very sad, and I didn't really realize how much of a tragedy this was. I mean, of course I knew it was a tragedy. Of course I knew it was a nationwide tragedy, and in still ways we're still feeling Christopher Reeve's loss of no longer being here, and the tragedy of his life and the way things went those last couple of years. I think everybody who's a fan of those Superman movies and just movies in general feels that loss, right? But I think that this documentary was able to teach me things I didn't really know about this family and the story of everything, and it was very well paced. If I do, and it was very just well edited and just crafted. It was a really well directed documentary that felt like it was really well done. I do have a few gripes. I wish they kind of talked about Smallville and maybe gotten to interview Tom Welling. I just rewatched Smallville season 2. Record my review for that. That'll be out next week. That's besides the point. What I'm saying is that documentary is not documentary. That episode, played in the Christopher Reeve Foundation, and when they were talking about some of that stuff, it felt like maybe that was an important piece that maybe should have been there. You know, maybe they could have interviewed Tom Welling and what he felt about Christopher Reeve. I'm sure he had nice things to say. I mean, you've heard the guy in interviews talk about him before. Just would have been nice to throw that in there. And just things like that I think would have made this documentary more impactful and connected with me a little bit better. I think also I feel like maybe the impact of those Superman movies wasn't majorly described well enough. Like, you know, these change Hollywood, and it's a big deal. And I get the main focus of this movie is Christopher Reeve's wife outside of playing the character of Superman. So I get why they didn't. But then the other thing I think that needed some touching upon was, isn't it true that his uncle was George Reeve, was Superman? Or maybe I heard that was just a rumor. I could be wrong, but I swear that's true. And if that's true, why was that not here? Very odd. But let me know your thoughts. Like, share, and subscribe. And will you be checking this film out on streaming or digital or whatever? Because, you know, it's not playing in theaters anymore. Unfortunately, it is a great thing to see on the big screen if you're a Superman fan, and I hope you got to see it. If you didn't, I'm sorry for you, but this is a great documentary that is 100% worth your time if you're not able to catch it in theaters. I get if you weren't. I've never realized, you know, how lucky I am to have the time to watch some of these movies I do, because I definitely have lately, getting older, I've been having less and less time to actually do it. Like today, I'm looking at all the movies coming out next week, and I'm like, I can't see that, and I don't have time for that, and I don't have time for this, and I'm going to that, and, you know, there's a couple movies I really want to see that I'm probably just going to have to go, I got to let you go. You can't do that. So it's hard, but, you know, you got to make time for things, and it's just, it's a whole set of circumstance. Let me know your thoughts, like, share, and subscribe.